lecture number 4. We're in the area of money management. As any project manager, you have to help your team, to help your sponsor, to help everybody to manage the budget, to manage not only the time, which we discussed before, not only the scope, which we discussed one lecture before, but you have to manage the money, actually the resources which you take from the customer and give to programmers. We're talking about software development projects. So in most cases, you distribute the money among people, because the people are, in most software development projects, the people are the most expensive part of the entire show. So we start with the questions. As usual, I have 8 questions for you. So now take your pencils and write down the answers which you think are the right ones. Question number 1, let's imagine 1-year project. So how often you ask your customer to sign off the budget? The customer needs to sign the budget so that the customer agrees to give you this amount of money. So how often do you do this? 4 options, pick the best you want. Question number 2, what is the most honest way to bill a customer? So you, as a project manager, you will be responsible for asking money from the customer. So the customer will want to see some report from you, some justification for the money that the customer is giving you. So it may happen in the beginning of the project, it may happen somewhere in the middle of the project if the project is quite long, it may happen in the end. So what is the right way to bill the customer, to justify your expenses? Pick the best answer you think is suitable here. How to calculate cost performance indicator. I'm almost sure that none of you right now understand what it is. And this is why the question. We will discuss what it is, but still maybe some of you do understand what it means. So pick the best answer you can pick and get ready for a more detailed explanation of this concept. What is it? Cost performance indicator. Which budget looks best of all in terms of accuracy and precision? There are 2 things which are not only related to money, but in terms of money, they are quite frequently applicable. So pick the best one. Let's say you come to the customer with a budget and you present to the customer one of these 4 lines. So which one would look more reasonable for a customer to approve? Which one looks unreasonable and hard to justify? Question 5, imagine you're a project manager and the programmer comes to you and then she says, she asks you to pay $500 for a training course about machine learning. So what do you answer? What's going to be your answer? Again, there's one extreme answer, number 1, you definitely refuse it, and then there are less aggressive answers which you can also choose. Think about it. Think carefully. What do you think you would answer to such a programmer who's asking you in the middle of the project? The question doesn't say in the middle of the project, but you imagine that it happens in the middle of the project. So we're going down the road, we're developing, and then programmer wants to attend a course to learn machine learning. Question 6, you just interviewed 2 programmers and one of them is better than the other one and you want to hire that person, and then you go to the boss, to hiring manager, to the CEO of the company, and you need to argue like why this one is better than that one. So which argument do you think is going to sound more convincing to the boss? Which one you would use in order to get that programmer on board? There are 4 options. Think about them, choose the best one. Question 7, would you allow your team member know the salaries of each other? It's a tricky question. It's a very popular question. Many companies don't know the right answer, but most companies lean on the side of the answer number 1. So in most companies, you will see the situation where people are not allowed to disclose the salaries of each other to each other. Which one what would you do if you're a project manager? Would you allow them to know the salaries? And maybe if you would do that, then maybe on some conditions, which are presented in the answers 2 and 3. So think carefully and choose the best one. Finally, the question 8, who is making more money? And there are three-letter acronyms, which you may not know all of them, but make a guess. Some of them you may know, some of them you may not. Again, make a guess and see at the end of the lecture whether your guess was right or wrong. Okay, that's it. Now let's go through these questions one by one and I will give you the right answers. Remember, we're talking about cost management. It's how you, a project manager, deal with money. So every once in a while, it is a job of a project manager to synchronize their reality with the expectations of project stakeholders. I told you about that the role of a project manager is to make sure that we know what's going to happen. We know when the project will fail. It's not the failure of a project manager if the project fails. It's the reality. The failure of a project manager is not knowing when the failure will happen. If the project manager says, I hope the project will be successful, this is a bad project manager. A good project manager will say, I know the project will fail in 4 months. And if you give us more money, we're going to fail in 5 months. This is a good project manager. So we need to go, you as a project manager need to go to the customer and tell the customer that the reality has changed, that the budget must be increased or the budget may be decreased. It also happens. And the customer must accept this new reality because you cannot just ignore the fact that the reality has changed. For example, you just, in the beginning of the project, you decided to use one version of the database, and then all your programmers started to work with this database, and down the road in 2 months we all realized that this was a wrong choice. That was a wrong decision made 2 months ago. So now we need to choose a different database, a different platform, and that means another 2 months of work, and that means another some few $1,000s which need to be added to the budget. That's the reality. Yes, we made the wrong decision. Who will be fired or who will be punished for this decision? That's a separate question. But now the reality has changed. We need to go to the customer. A project manager has to go to the customer and say, now the cost of the project is bigger. And the customer has to sign the paper and say, I agree, I'm going to give you that money. If you don't do that, you put everybody at risk. If you ignore this fact, you put in trouble all the people in the project. I think it's obvious for everybody. So when do we do this? When do we do the sign-off? So the right answer here is this one. So the first answer is after every weekend. It sounds more like a joke because, some people do that, but that would create maybe extra pressure on the customer because that's too often. You can't do that. Of course, you can present this information to the customer every weekend. You can do it even every day because the reality, if you're a good project manager, you keep it, you track the reality, you observe the reality, and it changes every day. So I just gave you an example of a huge mistake which we made in the beginning of the project. So the database needs to be changed. So the budget will increase maybe 2 times. But there are many smaller mistakes, many smaller things that happen in the project. For example, one programmer just got sick for a week, and that means what? That means a little bit extension of the pipeline, and since most programmers are on a payroll, it means more salaries. It means we're gonna pay them even though they don't do anything maybe, but because one person just put a lag in the schedule, like we discussed last time, so all the tasks which were depending on his task, they just moved forward, and that means increase of the budget. And even if the person just got sick for just 1 day, then it still means some money, some changes in the budget. So ideally you recalculate your budget every day, maybe even every minute. That would be a perfect project manager, which of course they don't exist in reality. Maybe the robots can be as effective as that. But in ideal world, the project manager is somebody who recalculates the whole reality every minute. So you can go to the customer every weekend and say, the reality is new, please make a sign-off. But usually we don't do that because the customer will be quite annoyed by these rediscussions of the budget, and the customer will feel like we're trying to cheat on him because we come with the money questions so often with no reason. So the customer didn't request any changes. The customer didn't initiate that. So it will look for the customer that we're the troublemakers. So we constantly asking them to rethink the future. So most customers will be super unhappy. Professional customers, maybe they exist, I haven't met them, but maybe they exist in real world, so they will definitely love this answer. They will say, yes, come to me every weekend, come to me every day, send me an email every night. So every morning I wake up and I see how much my project will cost me. And every morning the number should be different, a little bit different. So I know that my project costs me $100,000, but tomorrow I get an email and it's 100 and 100,000 plus $500. And I know, okay, the budget goes up and I see the justification for that. So there's an email, will be the explanation of what exactly changed. That would be a perfect project management, but we're not that good there. And we don't have such good customers because, like I explained. So this is not an option for now, maybe in the future. Option number 2, after every pull request. That's also sort of a joke. So we're accepting pull requests. They're coming in a software project. They're coming every day, many of them every day. And of course, each of them change the reality somehow. Of course, we, again, like with an example of a person who got sick, then we can say that every change also changes the reality, but that will be even more frequently than the first option. So it's no. And this option after every phone call, that's a joke, but it's not far from the reality, because actually this is what happens in reality. So the customers, they just call you and they just ask you to change the plan, and then you say, okay, I will. Give me a minute, I'll recalculate something, and then you call the customer back and say, yeah, I recalculated, so how about you give us more money. But this is not the right way, not the professional way. The professional way is to organize the process. You see the keyword. It's called change control board. Just remember this term, change control board. So change control board in some sort of maybe a group of people, maybe just 2 people, you and the customer, but ideally a bit more people. This is the group or the change or the process, maybe not a group of people, but a process which controls the mechanism of changes. So the change request must be initiated by the customer, by you, by programmers, by anybody, and to be sent to the change control board. So the change request is coming in, and the change request says, a mistake was made. We didn't choose the right database. We're going to fire the people who were guilty, but that's not the point. So please make the changes to scope, cost, and time of the project. And then the project manager, the change control board, asks the project manager to do the calculations, recalculations. And this person, you, the project manager, just return back to the change control board with a new management triangle, with a new scope, with a new cost, and with a new time. So you come to them with a new future plan, with a new understanding what's going to happen in the future. And all 3 elements are changed. And the change control board says yes or no. If they say no, you have 2 options. Option number 1, you stop the project. If it's impossible to continue with the previous baseline. So the previous, we call it baseline, the previously agreed 3 elements of the project management, the triangle, was the baseline. So we hoped that the project would finish in 5 months and with this budget. But we made such a big mistake, technical mistake. So now the change request is absolutely necessary. So you come to the change control board and say, we need to approve this change request. More money, more time, maybe more scope or less scope. So please approve it. They say, no, we don't approve it. There's no other option. You just say, okay, in this case, we stop the project. We admit the failure. We accept the losses, and then we move on. And if it's a professionally organized process, then they need to understand that, yes, if they don't accept the change request, if they don't accept the changes, if the answer is no, it means only one thing: the project cannot continue, because the previous baseline is not in sync with the reality. We just cannot continue. I mean, it's not going to happen. So we just know that the project will not happen. We'll have a failure. Or if they are saying yes, then you continue. If they say no, so one option is terminate the project, terminate it, close, or whatever, make a full report. Why did it close? Who failed? Who was the troublemaker? Who made the wrong decision? All the so-called post-mortem analysis. When the project is dead, then you sit down as a project manager, write down the report and say, we started 3 months ago, that was the initial plan, and then this risk happened. About risk, we're going to talk a few lectures down the road, and you write down the report and you close the project. That may happen. Another option, if they say no, is I think there is no other option. In this case, you just quit the project, you personally. So if you have a change control board that is not willing to accept the changes and just continue pushing you to work in the reality, which is already proved to be wrong in the picture of the reality. So you already proved to them by showing them the change request that the new baseline, the new reality is different. And they still say, no, we insist that you continue to work with the old baseline. Then you need to resign. Then you need to say, I'm not a project manager anymore if you're a professional project manager. Because making any more steps with the old baseline, while we all understand that there is a new baseline must be approved, then you just resign. Or maybe you can just make a circle and try to create a new baseline with a different input. For example, they tell you, we're not accepting the new budget. So we don't have money more. We just have the money which we plan. So then reduce the cost, reduce the scope, or increase the timeline. Then you go back to the replanning, and then you come back to them again with a new baseline and say, all right, the cost remains the same, even though we made a mistake with the database. But it's going to take 2 years instead of 1 year, because we're going to move slowly, we're going to get cheaper people, we're going to get larger delays, we're going to accept people working part-time. So that's going to be our decisions, management decisions. Do you accept that? If they say no, we still want the same budget and we still want delivery in 1 year, then maybe you say, okay, in this case, we reduce the scope. So we're going to implement less features. So we're going to do, the product will work, but it's going to be less functional and there are going to be less interesting features inside. And if they say no, we still insist to have the same scope, the same cost and the same time, then maybe the only option for you is to play with the risks. And we discuss it a few lectures down the road, where we're going to discuss the risks. And I will tell you how you can deal with the situation using the risks as an instrument. But most possible scenario is that if you see the situation, you just go off the door and you just resign and say, I'm not going to work with you guys because you don't understand how project management works. Okay, one question from you. They say no to push offer with less budget and you need to try solution, close project, spend less money. Yeah, just like I explained. Question 2, what is the most honest way to bill a customer? We bill them, again, justifying the expenses. So we explain to the customer why we cost $1 million, why they need to pay us $1 million. First option, you can tell them that we cost some money per hour. So we just go to the office, we sit in the office, pay me. I'm a programmer, whatever I do, I write code, you pay me. I don't write code, you pay me. I read Facebook, I learn machine learning, I read the books, it's still my work time, so you pay me. That's the first option. Maybe not every customer will be happy with this, so I say this is not, in my opinion, the honest way to bill customers, even though many companies do that. And I'm sure that you most probably will see the situation where that kind of billing is happening. But I'm teaching you here the proper project management. So I believe that this is a wrong attitude to the customer. Just like I told you, imagine you hire a person to redecorate your house. And then this person says, you're going to pay me this amount of money every day. I redecorate, you pay me. I don't redecorate, you also pay me. I just show up in your apartment, I watch the TV all day, you pay me. The best you can do with me, you can fire me. But if you don't fire me, you continue paying me no matter what I do. This is what happens on the market, actually. This is how we programmers get money. So usually when they hire you, they don't pay you for the results. They pay you because you show up in the office. And this, in my opinion, is quite demotivating mechanism for everybody. It demotivates people because people are not happy. People don't want to work. People have no motivation, no monetary motivation to work. They just see that the customer doesn't care or the customer cannot do anything. So again, get back to the example with redecorating an apartment. Imagine you got a person who redecorates your apartment and you just have to pay for not for the work, not for the final result, not for the maybe for this wall and then for that wall and then for the ceiling, but you just pay for the person to be present in your apartment and pretend to be working. So this is what we do as programmers. In most cases we pretend to be working, and that's not good. Next one. Yeah, there's a comment there that maybe per pay per hour justified with man and hour work plan. So you need estimate just complexity of the task with man and hour work. Yes, you can estimate. So maybe this is not a bad idea to use this to use this number for an estimation to make the customer easily accepting your budget, especially when the customer is not clever enough. So the customer doesn't know what to do with you. So you just come up with the customer and say, this is the way we work. This is how we usually work. And the customer having no idea how to manage you otherwise, the customer will say, all right, okay, I'll pay what you want. And you say, we're going to have 10 programmers. They're going to work for 10 months. So it's going to be 100 man months. And each month is going to cost you $10,000. So this is your, how much is it? $1 million. So, and the customer will just shrug the shoulders and say, yeah, whatever. Just if that's how you bill your customers, then I'm going to accept it. But a smart customer will say, what do you charge me for the time? I don't need your time, guys. I need my software. I need my features. I need the product to be created. I don't care how much you spend. Maybe you can do it in just one day. Then I just give you the 1 million and give me the product tomorrow. Or maybe you can do it instead of 10 people, just hire 5 people and pay them not 10,000 per month your expenses, but give them 20,000 a month. Maybe in this case you can get better people and they will deliver result faster. So why do I need to care about this, the time you spend? I care about the result. So this basically, in my opinion, this option is the right one, and I'm getting to this option. So option number 2, pay per line of code. This is more reasonable than the hours. And I even though it may sound like a joke to you, because you may say that in this case we're going to just write many lines of code and there will be complete garbage in these lines of code, and we just show it to the customer, you wanted 100 lines, 100,000 lines of code, so you got them, so pay me the money. But if the customer is smart, if I would be the customer, I would say, okay, I'm ready to pay for lines of code, but I'm going to check how you configure your instruments for the acceptance of the code. So when some programmer creates some code, then there should be some group of programmers who accept the quality of this code. So they will merge the code from different programmers only when the code is good enough, and show me, demonstrate me the mechanisms you employ in order to check the quality of code. Show me how you use static analysis, how you use test coverage by the unit test. Show me how you use the peer review mechanism, how many people participate in each code review. So show me everything. Plus, on top of that, I'm going to employ external reviews of your code, which we're going to discuss in one of the next lectures. So if all these mechanisms for checking the quality of each line of code is in place, if each mechanism is there, and I as a customer can control that this mechanism is there, then I'm perfectly fine for paying you for the line of code. Totally acceptable. Because this line of code can be a good indicator, a good metric for measuring the amount of hours of work. But in this case, not hours, just hours, but hours of productive work. Some people may say that sometimes the productive work do not end up with a line of code. Sometimes we just think, we just brainstorm, we just create diagrams, we just create new algorithms, new concepts, and then we don't write lines of code, but we still spend a lot of time doing this. My personal belief, being a programmer for many years, is that programmers do write code. And technical people, architects, and everything, if they really do some productive, they end up with the lines of code. If they don't write anything, if they don't produce artifacts, digital artifacts, which can be measured by the lines, then they're just wasting time. So all the people who participate in brainstorming, who participate in management, who participate in analysis, they're all just wasting our time and wasting our money. Unless they produce deliverables, unless they produce written documents or artifacts or source lines of code. So my personal opinion, I'm not buying this, that productive work may end up with a line of code or it may end up with nothing. So this nothing is, I don't accept that. As taking my personal experience into account of 30 years of managing people and writing code by myself. So lines of code is a good option, but we have a better one. How about per feature? How about we charge the customer for each feature which we implement? Remember, we discussed scope management. In scope management, we discussed that we have some function points. So we have use cases, we have user stories, we have some elements of the scope which we have after we break down the scope into elements, when we decompose the problem into smaller elements. So when we start the project, we take the scope, decompose into 300 elements, and then we tell the customer each element will cost you $100. Each feature which we decompose the whole problem to. Of course, these features may be not exactly the same size, but if we are professional developers, I told you about this on the scope management lecture, we will decompose this scope into pieces of approximately the same complexity or close enough. So in this case, we can really build the customer by features. We say, look at the product, create an acceptance team which will accept the product, test the features. If you like the feature, you pay us. If you don't like, we continue working on this feature. In this case, the customer will be much more happy than if you build them by the hour. So by the feature, they will understand that if there is no feature, they don't pay. And in this case, you will not care about when you work, how many people you have. The customer will not care, and you will not care. You will not need to report to the customer how many people sit in your office, how many programmers show up in the office. It doesn't matter. For you, what matters is that the features are implemented. In this case, you will easily work with freelancers. You will work with people working remotely, completely, because all you care about, make me the feature, I give it to the customer. Close me the element of the scope, make sure it works, I deliver to the customer, they send me the money, I take my margin and send the money to you. Done. So it's very good for project management to do it this way. This is a nightmare for project management, because when you charge per hour, you completely disconnect the money from the scope completion. The customer sends you the money, the programmers are lazy, they don't complete the scope, or maybe they're not just lazy, they just cannot complete the scope. Maybe there are technical problems. So you have difficulties in the scope and the money coming in, but they're not connected. So eventually you will get into trouble when the money is spent already. You already gave the money to programmers who delivered nothing to you. So then you come to the customer, it will be very challenging discussion with the customer, very difficult talk, because the customer will, imagine yourself being a customer, you would complain. You would say, I gave you all the money for all your hours, I didn't ask you about hours, I didn't care about you guys doing whatever, I just gave you what you asked, but you didn't deliver for me. So that will be a difficult discussion. And finally, the pull request. So this is the ideal option for me. You break down your scope into features, but then you break down the features into pull requests. They're even smaller element of the scope. And then you can tell the customer, look, we have a very high quality system of accepting the pull request. Each pull request gets into the system only when it's a really perfect code. And when we move forward, every pull request moves us closer to completing the feature. So the customer will see how you progress, and the customer will understand the complexity of the feature. So in this case, the information about the complexity is completely hidden from the customer. The customer doesn't know whether it's a complex feature, whether you have got into troubles implementing the feature. So the customer is kind of against you in this case. It's like a taxi. It's like driving a taxi when you pay for the final destination. So you just say, I'm going to pay you $50 to get to the airport. And if you have troubles driving to the airport, if you have to take a detour, if it's a longer road, I don't care, I pay you $50. It's not really a comfortable situation for both sides, because sometimes the taxi driver will overcharge you in order to cover the risks. The driver will say it's $100 to the airport in order to cover the potential detours. But then there are no detours happen. So actually the taxi driver spend less time, but you still pay $100. So it's not a really good deal when you act like this. But if you charge for the pull request, then you say, we're gonna trust me, we're gonna deliver you to the airport, and you're gonna pay me for the kilometer. So this is the option, which means paying per mile, paying per kilometer. The more we drive, or paying for the time we sit in the wheel. So we are driving. We're not wasting your money. We're not watching the Facebook. I'm actually sitting and driving, but it takes longer because of the reality, because of objective situation, objective bottlenecks. So this is a better option. Then there's another question, another comment. If we pay $1 for a feature, then the quality can suffer. Well, again, when we pay for feature, the customer must ensure, or we need to show to the customer that we have a quality control procedure or the testing procedure, so that the feature is accepted by the customer only when it passes the acceptance control. And this acceptance control must not only check that the feature works, but also checks the quality of code. So whether the quality of your Java lines are good enough, whether you were documenting your code correctly, many other things which are related to internals, the internal quality, not only external quality where you just observe the behavior of the product, but internal quality. So try to get there. But in reality, like I told you, you will be most likely working in this option, which is unfortunately is not a good situation on the market. How to calculate cost performance indicator. So there is a large concept, very famous among professional project managers and completely infamous among agile project managers. It's called earned value management. Earned value management. EVM. So what it is, it's very simple and at the same time very powerful. So that's an idea of tracking the progress of the project using a few simple metrics which are connected to so-called value, which the project is supposed to earn while it moves forward. For example, you break down the scope into, let's say this is your scope, the entire scope, you break it down into so-called work packages. So this is the package number 1, the package number 2, the package number 3, and the package number 4. So here we implement some feature 1, then we fix another feature, then we deploy the product, and then we design the user interface. For example, just four blocks of the scope, very simple, primitive project. Then you say, okay, what is my cost of the entire project? So you say when you assign earned value, so how important, how much value in terms of money these features will actually give to you. So this one will give you let's say $100. This one will give you $200. This one will give you 50, and this one will give you I don't know, 300. So this is the cost which we expect. It's not the cost, it's the value, sorry. This is the value. We just, in the beginning of the project, we agree that this is how we're going to calculate our value delivered by different features. Probably it could be done subjectively, and it could be done more or less using some judgment from the customer. So somehow you do break it down. Usually people do it if we break down the scope into equal elements approximately with the equal complexity. You can put even the same equal numbers into the column the value. You can put numbers 100, 100, 100, just equal numbers. So then you say, and the total of these numbers should be the total cost which we bill to the customer. So the total will be 4,650. So this is our value of the project, and at the same time it's the cost of the project. So this is our budget. So we take the whole budget and break it down into elements. Now we start doing the project. So this 650, it's called yeah, and that's it. Yeah, so this is the budget. And then we start working. And at some point of time, we sit down in the middle of the project and we see that this feature is done. This feature is done. This one is not. This one is not. So that's the reality. That's what we have right now. And at the same time, we know that the customer already gave us, we already spent $450. Because we paid the salary, so we know how much we spent. So what do we have right now? We have 3 numbers which we play with. First number, it's called actual cost. It's 450. We have earned value. So how much we earned value so far? This is our earned value. So we earned $300. And what is the planned value at this time? So we're in the middle of the project. I told you we're in the middle. So it means that we planned, let's imagine that we plan to earn the value equally. Every day the equal amount of value. That it means that approximately in the middle of the project, the earned value, the planned value would be 50% of this number. So the planned value is 325. So these are our three numbers, which will help us to understand where we are standing. So what is and now we need to decide, are we moving forward as we planned, or are we having troubles? And the first thing which will help us is the indicator called cost performance indicator, which means how effectively we spend money. How do we calculate this? We take this formula. So we take, this is the right answer. So we take earned value, which is 300, and divide by the actual cost right now. So it's called above budget right now. Why do we know it's above budget? Because the CPI is less than 1. So if the customer understands earned value management, these simple formulas, then you can just call the customer and the customer will say, what's up? What's going on? And you just say CPI 0. I don't know, what's the value here? I don't know, something like, you can do the calculation, something like 0.8, for example. So you call the customer and say, my CPI right now is 0.8. And that tells everything to the customer. He will understand that you are spending too much. So you're overrunning the budget while not delivering the value which you plan to deliver. And there is another indicator which is called schedule performance indicator, which is calculated like earned value, this is the formula, divided by planned value. So what is our SPI right now? This was our CPI. What is our SPI? It is 300 divided by 325. So we are again behind schedule. So we're too late. So we planned to earn at this point of time this amount of earned value, but we didn't. So the actual value, the earned value, the actual value we earned is less than 1. So your goal as a project manager is to take control over these two indicators, SPI and CPI. And if these two numbers are staying above 1, then you're good. So that's all you need to know about project management by numbers. It's called earned value management. So the most difficult part, of course, is to build this breakdown of numbers. So take the full budget of the project and break it down into features. But if you do the scope management correctly, decomposition of the scope is done correctly. So you broke it down into many pieces and they are of approximately the same complexity. Then you can easily break down the entire budget into equal pieces. And this is your elements of the value which you're supposed to earn. And then you can more or less equally distribute these values on the timeline. Usually that's enough. In small projects, that's enough. So if you do this, you may get a very useful instrument into your hands, and you may impress your customer if the customer is educated enough to know what is earned value management. I mean, I love this. It's really beautiful. It's really much better than all the stand-ups meetings, all the face-to-face meetings with the customer, all the calls on the discussions. You just give the number. You just put your brains into building this breakdown, into using these formulas, very simple ones, and then you just go to the customer and not only about customers, for yourself. You can easily understand with just two simple numbers. You can understand whether you're moving too fast or we're moving too slow. There's a question, how did we get 450? I'm saying that 450 is something that the customer already sent you to the bank account. So 450 is the actual cost. This is how much you spend from your bank account. So this is the actual money value. So you get the information. There's AC. This is actual cost. Something, the reality, reality is showing you. We spend AC is the number from the reality, and this is the number from the reality. So where we are on the timeline. So you put all your values on the timeline, and then you know where you're standing. You know the total duration of the project. You know that you're in the middle. So it means 50% of the value are supposed to be earned. So this is the PV. So the PV Planned value is something which we know. I'll show you some graphs in the end of the lecture, you will understand. So that's it, that's earned value management. Next question, which budget looks best of all in terms of accuracy and precision? So maybe it's an obvious thing for you, maybe I'll tell you something that you know, but there are two things which are related to metrics in general, not only to budgets, not only to money. So the accuracy means, but first of all, look at this. I'm sure you know what is the right answer. So which one? Show me, give me the number which you think is right. How would you present this information to the customer? Which one looks more reasonable? To option 1. Okay, option 4. Okay, I suppose it's a joke. What else? Option 3. Option 3. Okay, we have 2 votes for option 3. Anyone else? And option 3, 2. As usual, I don't know. Okay, for option 3 we have most of the votes, and this is the right answer. Definitely option 3. So let's see what we have on other options. Option 4, you said. Of option 4, we have very low accuracy. And we have low precision. Low and low. So this is the precision. Sorry, my mistake. This is the accuracy. So the accuracy means, do you know or you don't know? So you just say that the accuracy means the uncertainty which you put there. So you say plus 100%, minus 100%. So it's too wide. This distance is very wide, and it is maybe in this case it's not really too wide because the precision is also low. So maybe this combination of the low precision and low quality and low accuracy is okay. It's more acceptable because look, the number is very big, so the precision is very low. This is very high precision. Precision means how many down to which number at the right of the total number you care about. So in this case, we don't care about these numbers, we don't care about these, we only care about the number 9. So we basically don't care what stays here. That's why we put zeros there. So by putting 0, you're telling your customer that we are not sure about, that we don't, this information, don't pay attention to it. So you basically can write 9K plus minus 100%. So this 9K means it's 9K. So I'm not giving you the cents, I'm not giving you the singular numbers, it's just 9K. So in this case, the precision is very low and the accuracy is very low. So that's acceptable combination, more or less acceptable. So this option is maybe the second one acceptable than the previous ones. Here we have option, in this case, we have a good balance between the accuracy and precision. This is what it's all about. There should be the balance between the accuracy and precision. So you cannot say, for example, like in this case, you cannot say that I'm giving you this number and then you say plus minus 10%. It sounds like a joke because you just gave me the so detailed, very high precision number. So you even gave me the cents. And then you're saying plus 10%. So this plus 10% will completely destroy all the precision which you put into the calculation. So why did you calculate your budget with such a high precision when in the end you're telling me that's going to be plus 10%? So it's unreasonable and it sounds fishy. So this one is much better. So here you have 9.9K plus minus 20%. So that's okay. So it means that this 20% will probably increase it to 10.3 and decrease it to 9.1 or something like this. So all of this combination is balanced. So you need to keep a balance between accuracy and precision. It's not a difficult topic, just keep it in mind that these two things are usually used when we deal with numbers. So if you give the estimate like this is also maybe acceptable because here, look, the precision is not super high, so we didn't give the cents, so it means that we don't care about them, and the accuracy is not so, the uncertainty is not so big, so the accuracy is quite high. So of course the highest accuracy would be plus minus 0%. That means that the highest accuracy. So I'm just giving you the number, and I'm sure that's how much it's going to cost. The precision, definitely the highest will be down to 1 cent. So this is the highest precision, highest accuracy. So they need to move together. That's my point. So if you increase the precision, if you decrease the precision, you decrease the accuracy. You're a project manager, the programmer asks you to pay $500 for a training course. I need to add here in the middle of the project. So we're already moving down the road. So we already have have a lot of things happened already. So what's going to be the answer? Of course, the right answer, as you might expect, is this. So definitely not. So why I'm giving this answer? Because the project already have the rules. We already established the principles of how we distribute the money. We already informed everybody that they can go to the training course on these terms. They can use the extra budget when this and this happens. So making the additional decision, making the decision in favor of some programmer is not a good idea in general. So when you say this, let's describe what's going to be the attitude of this programmer if I would come to my manager and I would ask this question. And the manager tells me, I have to ask our CFO and the customer. Ask about what? You're going to ask them what? About my performance? Or you're going to ask them whether we have the budget? So you don't know whether we have the budget? Are you a project manager or who are you? What's your role here? So why you need to ask somebody if you are the manager who's supposed to control the scope, the cost, and the time? So the project manager must know whether the money is here or the money is not there. So if the project manager say this, then it means that he's lying to me. It means that he knows, but he's trying to shift the responsibility to somebody else. So he's saying, it's a difficult question, let me talk to somebody. And then he comes back to me and says, the CFO, the blah, 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 told me we don't have the money. He's lying. He just doesn't have the courage, doesn't have the strength to tell me that, no, we're not going to go to the course, because in the beginning of the project, we already agreed that on training course, only the people who have high performance, they can go. And you, if you come to me with the question, can I go? It means you cannot go, because the rules already dictate that you don't fit. So probably your performance is not good enough, or some other conditions. So this is definitely will offend me if I hear this answer. This one, only if you work on the weekends. That may be a little bit better, because here it sounds like the explanation to me the rules. So maybe the manager says, we have this in the rules, probably you just don't know them. So I told everybody 3 months ago that if you guys work on the weekend, you can go to training courses. Maybe you didn't read it, maybe you missed the message. So I'm telling you again, this is the message. So maybe that's acceptable, but it only tells everybody again that I'm not a proper project manager, because my job as a project manager is to define the rules and distribute them among all the people. So I need to inform them. If I don't inform them well, then it's my fault. So it's not good. And this one is definitely not right, because here I'm trying to establish the rules right on the spot. So the rules are absent definitely here, so we don't know about them. They don't exist, obviously, if the manager is saying so. So the manager is trying to tell me to say no to me, but without the proper explanation. So again, no strength, no courage to tell me honestly that definitely no, just no. There's no need to ask me these questions. So I don't provoke me to give an explanation. Why should I explain? I just want to go and for the training course. If the rules say, we already just already explained. So this is definitely the best answer, because it means that the project manager is strong. The project manager is really responsible for the situation, and this is good for the team. You just interviewed 2 programmers, and now you have to explain to your boss that one of them is better than another one. So what is the best argument? One option, she's more enthusiastic. Another option, she has longer experience. She has bigger Stack Overflow reputation. It's all about the evaluation of the people. So when you as a project manager will work with people, you inevitably will have to put a price on each of them, no matter how bad it sounds. But we project managers, we deal with people, and people for us are resources. You can read tons of the books where they will tell you that your job is to treat people as super valuable, something, blah, 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 and don't treat people as resources. treat them as people, but understand that these are just mere words. They're just telling you the words, trying to draw a picture which they don't even know how to paint properly. So they are just throwing the words in the air because they want to sound good. But reality is different. In reality, you as a project manager need to deal with resources. And these resources are computers, money, time, scope. Not scope is not the resource. Time, budget, people, contractors, their hands, their heads, their talents. All of these are the pieces which you put together in order to, in the best possible way, in order to make sure that the project will finish with the result which is expected. So every person for you is a resource which costs some money, which costs some not only money, but also which costs some risks, because again, we're going to discuss it later, but with every person, there are a number of risks assigned to the person. The person may quit, the person may steal the information, the person may promise you something and do not deliver. And you may rely on, you may expect this deliverable coming from the person, and the person will not deliver. That's a risk. And how much risk is where, and who is the most risky resource for you? That's your job as a project manager to estimate, to evaluate. So your job is to see what is the what is the price of each person. And you will need to decide that. So here I'm giving you my recommendation of where to pay attention. How do you, on which characteristics, on which metrics you're going to pay attention. As a project manager, you need to be objective. So you have to have some sort of a criteria for yourself, and maybe for the team, and maybe for the company, where the people will fit in. So when you interview people, and you will do that when you become a project manager, when you interview people, have some sort of a multi-factor spreadsheet where you know what kind of questions or what kind of parameters you're going to evaluate for each person, and then you summarize the results, and then you say this person was evaluated as 7.9 and that one for 8.6, and that's why the guy for 8.6, I think they deserve more money. So you need to have this multi-factor evaluation schema. And what do you put there depends on the situation, what your company believes is important, what is important for your project. For example, your project works on some new technology, on some, I don't know, cryptocurrency, for example, and then you definitely would put the line that the programmer has an experience of working with blockchain, for example. So when you compare the people, maybe you put two people in front of you, but this one is very experienced in Java, and he's got a great education. He has an experience of 20 years working for a big bank. But this guy is super junior. He has 1 year experience, but this 1 year is in blockchain industry. So who do you want to hire? Most probably you're going to look at the second option. But why? It shouldn't be subjective. It shouldn't be your gut feeling. You shouldn't just say, this is what I feel is right. You should put these two guys into a spreadsheet and calculate the numbers. There's a question, who is the boss? Is it the CEO or the project manager? You have to explain to your boss. Well, the boss is somebody who will always, you will always have some boss on top of you in an organization. So you will, unless you are the founder of the startup, then you will have to make sure that the decision who to hire is actually accepted by some group of people. Usually it's not even going to be the boss of you, it's going to be a number of bosses or a number of people. The HR department, the CEO, maybe the head of the department, maybe VP of staffing or whatever. So it's going to be a number of people which need to agree. And if you present to them this multi-factor analysis spreadsheet where you put the information why you decided this one is better than that one, then it's going to be more professional. You will look like a much more professional project manager, comparing to you writing a long story that I love this guy, he's very enthusiastic, or she's very enthusiastic, she worked in so many companies, she's so smart, I asked you all the difficult questions on the interview, we talked for 2 hours, we loved each other. It's all noise for me. Would be, if I would be your manager, I would just look at this and say, who are you trying to fool? Give me the more detailed and professional overview of that person, and let me compare that person with 5 other people who you interviewed before, and then I will see why you decide to hire that person. So now the question is, what is going to be the criteria number 1, criteria 2, criteria 3, criteria 9 for you? And then you put the values, 7 here, 6 here, 9 here, and 2 here, for example. And then you calculate, maybe you put the weight here as well. So these are the appraisal results, which you do, and then the weight. So this one, you care for this 100%. This is important. This is 50% importance. This is 20%, so I don't care about this too much. And this is 100% importance. Then you multiply them, and then you get the total number. And the total will be, like I said, 7.9. So this 7.9, together with this spreadsheet, will convince me as your manager. So the question is, what do you put in here? So which one of this you think, I think, and you think is the most important? She worked for a competitor before, maybe, if the value is important, if this is important for us. But in this case, be careful. I put this answer here. It's a little bit tricky. So some people may believe that you, as a project manager, may just take the person from another company, and that person, because she worked for a competitor, so she will bring to you all the secrets and all the trade secrets and all the knowledge that she earned there from your competitor, and she will use them here. Usually we don't do that because it's not really legal, it's not really ethical. So we don't want that to happen. So maybe it may be risky to just hire people from direct competitor. So let's say I work, for example, in some search engine, like in Bing, for example, for Microsoft, and I hire somebody from Google Search. So that's a direct competition for me. And in this case, it may be a very good case for a lawsuit from Google, because they will try to prove that this person not only come to me to start from scratch, only bringing his knowledge on about the search in general, which this person, maybe was teaching in the university. But no, he was bringing together the trade secrets, some interesting, some important information, some deep secrets, which we in Google were finding and researching and so on. So this, I suggest to cross this out and don't pay it attention. So if you put this into your list of criteria and somebody will see that, they may even complain about the level of your professionalism, that if you pay attention to that. So there's a comment that this is what Google did with OpenAI programmers. They do it, of course, but you as a project manager, I'm teaching you, you don't want to be the evil maker. You don't want to be the person who does this. So don't put any criteria in your list which are against the law or against the common ethic. So we don't want to be bad guys. We want to do good in general. Option number 3, she has bigger Stack Overflow reputation. Actually, my answer was this. So I think this is the right answer. So I, in general, tend to trust objective numbers, something which is validated by the community. So Stack Overflow reputation, or you can put here GitHub reputation, or you put something like some maybe, I don't know, Hirsch index, if you're talking about the researcher, the index which rank the people who do research, not just coding, but some scientific publications. So there has to be something which is validated by the community, not by the person themselves. So when the person says, I am very enthusiastic, this is very subjective. Today she's enthusiastic, tomorrow she's not enthusiastic. How can you really measure the level of enthusiasm? Maybe she's faking it. It's very subjective. Of course we can take this into account. We can't put it here. But I would put very low value on this very low weight on this criteria. I would put the biggest weight on the objective metrics, on something which is validated by other people who I don't know and who she doesn't know. So Stack Overflow reputation means that she was giving proper, interesting answers to many questions which were asked by different people. So she helped, over years, she helped many people, and people respected that, appreciated that the people gave her the reputation. The people were upvoting the answers. Or maybe on the GitHub. So she made a number of open source projects which people liked, which people appreciated. The people gave her the stars. The people were forking these projects. So all of these things are so-called external endorsement, which you definitely should pay attention to first. And then all of these like subjective things, they go second. This is secondary. This is less important. Or this one, she has longer experience. It's of course better than being enthusiastic, but longer experience. Longer experience means what? That she was sitting in one company for a long time, doing something which we don't know what. It's very subjective and very difficult to really prove that this longer experience actually means something, because many people and many companies, they tolerate laziness, they tolerate unproductive work, they tolerate negligence to the work, they tolerate lack of result, lack of deliverables, lack of code. I know many stories where people, it happened to me just actually a few weeks ago. I was talking to one developer, and she told me that in her company, where she just joined the company, she joined the company in January. Now it's September. So she said she didn't write a single line of code. She was reading books, she was studying some technologies, she was just preparing to start the work. For 9 months, not a single line of code. And it happens everywhere. The whole industry is full of such programmers. Most of programmers are like that. So ask people around you, ask people who you work with, how many lines of code did they write a year? Did they write last month? And you see the numbers. Maybe that's a good case for the research, by the way. We can do that kind of research as well. Just go around and ask people how many lines they write. Because when I do this research informally, usually I get answers like maybe a few hundred, something like this. In very, very, very often, this is the answer. And when I ask you why, then the answer is, well, it's not so easy. Well, I have many other things to do, something else. Well, I do need to research, to think more, to participate in the meetings, and so on and so forth. But in reality, it means just lazy people. They're just people, or not motivated. Maybe not just lazy. They're unmotivated. They just don't want to. Maybe they can, but they don't want to. Would you allow your team members know the salaries of each other? That's a very interesting question. So most companies would definitely tell you, no, we don't want to allow them to know the salaries. Why they do it? And I'm sure it happens in the companies where you work right now, or you will work. So yeah, you suggest the question number one, the answer number one in the chat. You say, no, definitely no. Why? Let me explain you why. I know the reason, because I'm also working with people, and because it's a rule. It's a rule. There's one comment there. Of course, a rule, but the rule is established by who? So who made this rule? There is no law about this. Not in any country, we don't have any laws about this. So these rules, they're established by people, by company managers. So why they make these rules? They make these rules because they don't want people to know their numbers, because they cannot explain to the people why the numbers are different. So they cannot explain to you why you're getting less than your friend sitting next table. Usually these differences in salaries, they happen just because people were lucky enough to get bigger salary during the interview. And then the company, in order to get that person on board from the market, they agree to pay bigger salary. So the person comes to your team, and you're the programmer, she's the programmer, you're getting different numbers, and her number is bigger. Then you come to me I'm your manager, you come to me and ask me the question, why she's getting more, 20% more than me? I'm also writing code, I'm also productive, I'm also a good programmer, we're both Java programmers, why she's making more? I don't know how to answer you. I cannot tell you the truth. I cannot tell you that you're just unlucky. You just failed on the interview, you just asked for less. So that's it, sorry, get back to your desk and continue working. Will you really continue working in a good mood? Definitely not. You will start searching for start finding another job. So in order to keep you in the team, I just tell you, don't talk to her. It's illegal, it's a rule. You cannot ask for the numbers, because I cannot explain. And why I cannot explain? Because companies and teams, they don't have the clear principles, the clear rules of how much who can make. So if you are really a strong project manager who can really set up the rules in your team, which will define who gets how much according to results, which you measure according to certain algorithms, then your answer would be this. And this is the right answer. So the right answer, you need to make sure that in your team, everything is so clear, everybody understands what is important. Everybody knows what means productivity. Everybody knows how to get bigger numbers tomorrow by making more more results, then you definitely need to publish their salaries on the wall. You just make a graph on the wall and say, this month the salary of Jeffrey is higher than the salary of Mary. And you know why? Because Jeffrey committed more changes, implemented more features than Mary. That's why the numbers are bigger. Big celebration. And everybody celebrate. Everybody say, Jeffrey, great job. So nobody get jealous because we know why Jeffrey is getting more. Not because Jeffrey tricked us on the interview, not because Jeffrey is more lucky. No, it's not about luck. It's about productivity. It's about performance of Jeffrey. Of course, it's super difficult for a project manager, for most project managers, to define the productivity so clearly that everybody will have clear understanding what I need to do in order to become as Jeffrey. How many more lines of code, algorithms, features I need to implement to make as much money as Jeffrey is making? It should be absolutely transparent for me. In most managers, they just don't know, and they are afraid of their own people. So you say no when you're scared of your people, you're scared of your team. You don't know what to tell them. You know that they will quit if you don't give them if you give them the truth. So you just say no, you don't talk about that. It's illegal, it's protected, it's forbidden to discuss the salaries. So think about it. It's really a difficult topic, very hard to absorb when you first meet this problem. But think more about this. This is exactly what happens in professional teams. Professional teams, if you're a professional project manager, you need to try to drive into this direction, into transparency territory, into the zone of transparency where everybody knows everything. They know not everything, not all the passwords to the database, definitely, but they know what means productivity. And we will discuss, we will have a lecture about managing people. We'll have a staff, the resource management lecture specifically dedicated to this. But now we're talking about money. So the money, this answer is definitely the best answer for super professional. So if you tell me that in my team, everybody knows all the numbers, that will be the bottom line, which will tell me you're a super cool project manager. Don't show me your Gantt charts, don't show me your work breakdown structures, don't show me your backlog. This is all secondary. Number one is this. So if you can do this, you're the highest level project manager. So what about this? Only if they're all higher than the market can pay. And this is the protection for the project manager. So of course we can't tell them if they are high enough, so we know that they will not quit. Because we already pay to Jeff and to Mary so much that even if they get jealous, even if they don't know why there is a difference, we know that Mary cannot get this money on the market, so she will not quit. Jeffrey, he cannot get the same money on the market, so she will not quit. So we just don't care. We just say, okay, yeah, these are your numbers. I know you're the biggest on the market, so I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm not afraid of you leaving the company. This one, only if they're all the same. That's maybe true. Maybe true. If you set the salaries to everybody the same, maybe you will reduce the amount of jealousy. But still, people don't deliver equal results. And I know that I work better than Jeffrey. And I know that I'm getting the same money. Maybe 1 month I will tolerate this. Second month, I will be not so happy. Third month, I will be demotivated. I will see that I'm producing less, getting the same money. I will start producing less. My productivity will decrease, will go down. Even maybe if I deliver the same as Jeffrey, but I will think, and most people are not very objective to their own performance. Most people believe that they are super productive, while other people are less productive. So I will be, because of the jealousy, I will decrease my productivity. So this is a bad option. All of these are bad options. This is the worst. This is an indicator of a super bad project management. We're getting down to the final bottom line. So who's making more money? This is Oracle certified associate. So basically this is the technical expert. This is PMP. PMP is a project management professional. This is the certificate which is given by Oracle, the company, the private company. It's not private, public. Oracle, this is given by the Project Management Institute. So Project Management Institute is the publisher of PMBOK. So if you study PMBOK, if you work for, I believe, 4 years as a project manager, if you have, I think, 2 recommendations from PMP, from people who already have PMPs, certificates, then you have a chance to get PMP certificate after you pass the exam. So you need to go to the exam, you need to study PMBOK, the whole book, and on the exam they will ask you, they will give you situations like the questions I'm asking you, but they will be more strict, less funny, and you will have to sit in front of the computer for 2 or maybe 3 hours answering these questions one by one, and when most of the answers are correct, then you get the certificate. So this is the certificate, which means that you are a professional project manager. So I hope that some of you in maybe 5-6 years will get that kind of a certificate. So this is for technical people, this is for management people, for who manage people. This is PhD. You know what is PhD? You can get this if you become a researcher. So your university, our university where you study and I teach, may give you this status. So you need to finish your bachelor degree first, then your master degree, and then you get the philosophy doctor degree. It's philosophy, doctor of philosophy. So you will get this badge if you pass the third level of. This is for researchers. So when you research and when you solve the problems which not so many people try to solve, and you not only solve problems, but you introduce new theoretical contributions. So you say that in general this problem may be solved this way, or in general there is the dependency which I can see. For example, the research work which we do with you is that kind of work. So we are trying to find a common dependency. We're trying to analyze the reality on a large scale and say that we see that there is a correlation between this and that. It's not a practical solving of a particular problem. These people they solve the practical problems. And these people, they do research and they're trying to find correlations. They're trying to find new rules in life around us. They're trying to maybe introduce new principles and sort of that kind of contribution. And this is pure management, pure business people. So these are the manager who was manager and then was upgraded to the higher level of management, where you not only manage projects, but you start managing people. You start managing larger group of people, where not so much you care about cost, scope, and the budget, but you care more about budget only, mostly like this. So I think the obvious answer is this. These are the people who make the most of the money, but there are 4 different trajectories in life. I put this question, the last one, because it's more like philosophy of life. So I'll give you a few words about this. So it is for different kind of people, I believe. So some people love doing technical work. They just love writing code. Some people enjoy project management. And if you do project management correctly, like I teach you in this course, then you may enjoy it as well. So project management, the good project management, is not about sitting in the office on the weekend and pushing everybody and not sleeping at night and always having a lot of coffee because all the timelines are lost, all the deadline, all the scope is creeped and everything like this. No, this is amateur project managers are like that. Professional project managers, they work with documents, they think, they build this, they break down the scope into pieces, they think how to do it better, they create rules for their projects, they synchronize, they are doing interesting work. PhD is for the research, so we are now in this course trying to combine these 2 elements together, and this is for pure money. Unfortunately, these people get most of the cash, of course. So if you compare the salary of this guy, then I would say that if you point your professional trajectory, then probably here you're gonna get maybe 10x. Here you're gonna get maybe like 3x. If you're good. So imagine you're a good CEO, you're a good PhD, you're a good PMP. So here maybe you're gonna get maybe 3x as well. And I think, if you're good, maybe I'm wrong. If you're really good in all this, then here, if you're really good, you're gonna get, if you're really good, then maybe it's not the right answer. Maybe if you're a really good technical person, then you will get maybe more than the CEO. If you're a really good project manager, then you will probably get more even than the technical person. If you're a really good PhD and researcher, then you can get even more than. So here maybe not the answer 4 is right. Here I don't know. But they're just 4 different trajectories where you can make money, because this lecture is about money management. So I decided to give you 4 options in your life and four ways where you can go. Yeah, for medium, yeah, so that's maybe a good suggestion. So let's compare for medium people. So if you are an average person, like not a super great engineer, then maybe, and if you're average CEO, then maybe for here it's going to be like I said, 10x. Maybe if you're average PhD, it's going to be maybe 2x. Here it's going to be 4x, and there's going to be maybe 3x. So this is for average people, I think. That's how much you're going to make. So in general, project managers, they are making more than technical people and definitely more than researchers. So that's why maybe this course may be helpful to you. And you're asking whether I have this one, I have this one, I've been here, I don't have this one, but I'm working on this. So that's my personal situation. Okay, earned value methods. I decided to show you a few more pictures. They're taken from PMBOK. So we discussed this earned value method. You can check it yourself in the slide deck, but that's basically what I was telling you. So you plan. You see, there's a timeline goes here, and this is the cumulative cost. So we were planning that we will be spending money like this, spending and earning value. So not only spending money, but planned value. So we plan that everything will happen like this. But in reality, it happens this way. So this is the reality. And we're standing in this point. So we know already that there's a difference between this and that. So this difference is a trouble. And we also have so this one trouble, and also we have the earned value, yeah, the actual value which we earned. So this is another trouble. So this is the trouble for schedule performance indicator, and this is the trouble for this is for cost performance indicator, and this is SPI trouble. So these two numbers will show us these two differences. They will indicate how much we're lagging behind the schedule and lagging behind and overrunning the budget and lagging behind the schedule. And this is how much we are usually, the money, you see the money goes their way, and this is how much we're going to spend usually down through the project. So usually in the beginning people spend that amount of money, then the money goes up, then most of the money we spend on the top, and this is called cost and staffing level. So this is the amount of this. Imagine we have the team, and that's the size of the team. So in the beginning we have just a few people, then the amount of team, the size of the team grows, and that's why the costs they grow. So we spend more every month or every week, and then it's even more. This is the peak, and then it goes down. I think it's an obvious information to everybody. So the project spends money not equally, not like this, but you need to plan. When you plan the money, you need to understand that your team, the size of the team will grow, and then it will shrink. And that's in a pure project management. So when you start a project and you finish a project and you go away. But in companies where you work, the people who are available to your project, they were before and they will be after the project. So you're not going to disband the team when the project is finished. You're not going to, and you're not going to start with an empty team usually. So usually you start with the full team. There are 10 people sitting there. And that's a problem for companies, because the companies, they need to pay people like this. So they need to pay to everybody at the highest value, even though in the beginning of the project we don't need so many people. And we're going to discuss this in later lectures about this so-called matrix organization, where people are distributed among projects in some way so that the organization is able to allocate resources effectively, so they don't waste it. Okay, now the homework for you, and we finish. So I suggest that you, in your homework, try to create a project estimate. So imagine there's a customer in front of you. Take a project which you work with, maybe your existing project, maybe some dream project, and create me a project estimate. So tell me how much I have to pay you. So put the information which I told you about today and try to draw one-page document which will explain and justify the costs of the project you're trying to do. So not just one number. Don't tell me it's $1 million, but explain to me why it's $1 million. explain me there was a scope, there was time, so I expect to spend it like this, maybe draw a graph like that, and show me how much you're gonna bill me per hour, per line of code. So explain how much and why. That's called project estimate, and this is how ChatGPT explains it, this process of estimating the project.